Well, it's official. I can't take it anymore. This horizontal mill is about to get put back together. A little bit of surface rust, a little here and there. So we'll clean up that little bit of surface rust off of it and let's put this baby back together. So there I was. And yes, I've been asked by a couple of guys in the comments to you start putting my pilot stories back in. And that's, of course, how every pilot starts his fable, his stories is with, so there I was. Now, it's the winter of 1991, and I was based in Homestead Air Force Base down a little south of Miami, Florida, but they decided to ship me off over into Kunsan, Korea. Now, Kunsan, Korea had C model aircrafts, F 16Cs, and I was flying the F 16A at Homestead. However, we were just getting our new F 16Cs at Homestead, and so I was one of the ones that transitioned because I needed to be C model qualified to head over to Korea. Now, when I say new F 16Cs at Homestead, that's tongue in cheek because they were new to us, but they were really the older models. They were Block 25s, and I was going over to fly Block 30s. And at Homestead, we were flying with the Pratt & Whitney F100 engine, and over in Kunsan, they had the GE 110. Now, the transition from the A model to the C model at Homestead, since both airplanes had the F100 engines in them, the A and the C, that wasn't the part that I had to learn. I already knew that engine. But what I had to learn is the avionics and the new capabilities of the C model, but the engines were the same. So when I got over to Kunsan, of course, I had to get checked out in the local area. Anytime you go to a new base, you have to do a local checkout. And that's just to take you up, show you around, what you can fly over, what you can't, noise sensitive areas, what's supersonic, what's subsonic, and over there, how to return to the base without them thinking you're an enemy aircraft. Whoa, that thing weighs a ton. Yikes. Woo! That is a beast. It's a beast, I tell ya. Okay, attempt number 2. And if any of you guys out there call this a lightweight machine, I'll give you 5 of these across your lips. Hiya! Yikes! Alright. Yeah. Alright. Woo! Alright, let's try this again. A different way. Let's try it like this. Around that. Pulling that, around that, and over there. Yeah, I think that'll work. Make sure that this goes in. Let's take that off again. Line this up with that first. Gotta remember your order of operations, guys. Order of operations. Alright, I see a... Oh, man. Yikes. Okay. And now this has to line up in here because there's a slot right there. Alright. Oh yeah. Alright. It's easy. There we go. Yeah. Alright. Let's do this before we go any further. Put a bolt in here just to stabilize it. Whoa, mayday! Try that one more game. Okay. Okay. Just put this one in there for safe measure. All right. Now let's start playing around with these babies. So meanwhile, back in Kunsan, Korea, meeting with the instructor, we're having our briefing for our sortie to go up to give me my local area checkout. And one of the things he kept mentioning is about the GE 110 engine. Now, I had read upon it, I had learned the emergency procedures with it, and he had asked me, once again, have I ever flown with it? And I told him no. Now, I'm a seasoned fighter pilot at this time, and what I need to know is where's the no-fly zones? I need to know local area stuff that's going to keep me out of trouble, keep me from getting fighters from the Koreans scrambled on me, and that type of thing. But he's, seems to be focusing in on the power of this engine. Now, I got there in the wintertime, and the aircraft engines and the aircraft perform so much better in cold weather because the air is denser. And so you get more thrust out of the engines and you get more thicker, for lack of a better term, thicker air over the wings. So you get more performance out of the aircraft. So he said to me, when you rotate, you better raise the gear handle. He said that you'll overspeed the gear if you don't raise the gear handle as soon as you rotate. And I'm thinking, what in the world is this guy talking about? Now, you have to understand, all I've ever flown is the F-16, which is an extremely powerful aircraft. And then he brings up the point that this is a big lip airplane instead of the small mouth that I'm used to flying. I flew small mouth A models and small mouth C models. And that's just the size of the intake and how much air it could take in. And once again, he's focused on the engine, and I'm trying to figure out where to fly and where not to fly. So we step out to the jets, and I get to my airplane, and I did notice a difference in that intake. The big mouth is definitely more noticeable when you walk up there. It's way bigger than the intake on the smallmouth aircraft. Also, I noticed on the nozzle, the tail end where the exhaust comes out, I noticed that the turkey feathers were different. It was just beautiful. The exhaust is beautiful on this airplane. Now, when checking inside the nozzle there, I noticed it only had one spray bar. Now, the Pratt & Whitney engines had 5 different spray bars in the back for the afterburner. It had 5 stages of afterburner. Well, this only had 1. And the stages on the Pratt & Whitney stage 1 would light and you'd feel the push. Stage 2 would light and you feel the push. And it would, all the way up to stage 5. Well, on this, it only had 1, and it was called a smooth lighting afterburner. So now the afterburner would go from minimum to maximum, and not like the old ones where you could say I was in stage 3 of afterburner. On this one, it's like, you just had a modulation between minimum afterburner and maximum afterburner. Very smooth. So when I started the engine, I noticed that it definitely did start differently, the amount of time to spin up to full speed. And I noticed it sounded a little different. It had a throatier sound to it. So we taxi out to the runway, and now it's time for takeoff. And what we're doing today is a radar trail departure, which is a 20-second delay from the lead aircraft and when I take off. So I hacked my clock, and 20 seconds after he took off, I pushed the power up into full afterburner. Now, guys, I'm a seasoned fighter pilot, but when I tell you that afterburner kicked in, it almost took my breath away. Now, you have to understand, my mind is on trying to learn this local area, but right now my face is being peeled off. So I get myself together, and at 70 knots, I'm supposed to disconnect the nose wheel steering. So I looked at my airspeed indicator, and I'm already accelerating through 100 knots. Now, the reason we disconnect the nose wheel steering is a real sensitive way to steer the aircraft on the ground. But now past 70 knots, the vertical tail, the rudder becomes active, and now you can steer it with that. I had blown 30 knots past that. Now my next speed is the rotation speed. And I look at the airspeed indicator and I had blown past that. Now for those of you who don't know what rotation is, that's just when you start flying the airplane. When you start bringing your nose up, lifting the airplane off the ground. But now since I'm so fast, I just popped off the ground. Now the next thing you do when you're airborne is raise your landing gear. So I raised the gear handle, checked the airspeed, and oh no, I'm going to overspeed the landing gear. And I remembered the briefing that said when you rotate, you better lift the gear handle or you're going to overspeed the gear. So to keep from overspeeding the gear, I had to pull the nose up aggressively to stop the airspeed increase before the landing gear got up. And boys and girls, it was a photo finish. That gear got up almost exactly when I was going to hit the overspeed. So I had blown past the nose wheel disconnect steering speed, I blew past the rotation speed, almost oversped the gear, and now it's time to cancel the afterburner. So I canceled the afterburner at 350 knots like I was supposed to, and I hadn't even reached the end of the runway yet. Honestly, I thought that he was just exaggerating when he said, when, when you rotate, raise the gear handle or you'll overspeed it. I just thought he was exaggerating. And he kept talking about the engine, and I just didn't get it. I did then. The GE 110. Ask for it by name. Now, do you want to hear something even crazier than that? This engine, which almost peeled my face off, a little while later, while I was there, General Electric came up with this new mod that they put on these engines. All they did was change the first three stages of the fan section. Now, this is for you geeky guys out there. Uh, Modern jet engines are actually what they call turbo fan engines. Now, the fan section is the section that you see when you look at an airliner down the engine and you see those blades and you see that spinning. That is actually the fan section. So GE took the first three stages of our fan section, changed the blades to them, and gave us 4,000 more pounds of thrust. It was a beast. It was an unreal airplane. It had a thrust to weight ratio greater than 1 to 1, which means if they were to have set it up like on a launch pad vertically, it could take off vertically. So the thing I learned from this is when you go to a new base and the instructor is keyed in on something, pay attention to what they're keyed in on. Next time I'll mark these belts. I'm just guessing at belts now. This one seems like the closest one, so we'll try that one. Before we get too far, let's make sure this is working and sounds okay. Excellent. Sounds good. Here she is, Miss America. Guys, here she is. I forgot that there was a gib back in here, and I got that in there, got it adjusted, got it rewired, got the belts hooked back up. I took and put oil in all the places it needs oil, got her oiled up, and she's ready to go. I haven't attached it to the table yet because I'm not exactly sure how I want to do this, because this kind of hangs over a little bit and I don't have a lot more room to go back here. So I might have to just be careful around it not to go and knock that little knob off of there. But I'm going to go ahead and I will fasten it down as soon as I figure out how I want to fasten it down. A couple of little rattles and shakes I want to fix. But other than that, she's back together and running. And yes, this 2 years sitting and getting surface rust is killing me. But next up, let's get this shaper back together and get it going. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.